give it a whirl. Many of you know that we've been there and done a little of it, and I got saddled with this one because you led us here. You're the one that put me here. And you know a lot about center pivots, and some of the stuff I'm going to tell you already know, but we're going to go through it just to kind of tell us where we go, where we've been, and why did you go to center pivot? Let's get it open here. Why did you use center pivots in the first place? You tell me.
Labor.
Pardon me?
Labor.
Labor. Big labor. Why are you still using them?
No can't afford drip.
Do what?
No choice and can't afford drip.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Can't afford anything else in labor, and also we save some water with the pivots. As for, well, let me back up. Don McElroy, some of you know what Muse here, we thought we were saving bukus of water with center pivots, but all you did was irrigate with all the water you could get, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not considering it. But we thought back then, that's been in the 80s, when all these pivots became available, that this is what was happening, but it wasn't. And we've made a lot of changes, and we're going to concentrate today on a lot of things. We're going to go through some pretty fast, and I think we can. This is what Steve was talking about. This is where we went first. Low elevation spray with off the impacts at 100 psi. We went to mid elevation spray, and Ferris, I copied this off of your website. And we got several in here. This is what got us here, in my opinion. My experience, the low elevation spray, we dropped down, we used the 5 degree up nozzle, and a lot of us are still using that, and it's worked real well. We did get more acres with it, but today we're going to look at maybe some other things that some people are looking at, and that's what we'll be about. And I do have, I've asked, well, let me get into that a little bit later, but Senator is here today to help us make some decisions on some of the conversions that you may want to make in the cost share project within RCS. And we're going to try to get that done and move forward with it. That one didn't turn out very good, but that's a low elevation spray. Well, a lot of us are using that, and it's pretty protective in a corn crop, isn't it? But the question is, do we want to do something else or something better? And this right here taught us a lot in the early days. We learned that water would move laterally in soil, peanut soil. It's just a frequency of application, and we could keep on 5-foot spacings, 60-inch spacings with the bubble. We could do pretty well. But one of the things in my experience, irrigation is about hourly and daily and seasonal soil water and plant relationships. Back when I converted some individual spans from high impact sprinklers to low elevation spray, I had a couple of growers that I was working with said, I don't like this. I said, why? He said, I can't see the water. You know, we used to put it above the crop, and you could see it, and you could see from the house a mile away that you were watering. Well, we can't do that anymore, can we? So that was part of what we went through. But there are a lot of things that we can do, which we're going to try to get through in the time that we have today and get you information that you want on any conversion that you want to make. How much water is available for plants in the soil? Many of you know the soil water holding capacity, that's important, the infiltration rate. And where we've come a long way is with the soil moisture sensors. We don't have to see the water in the sky anymore. We can see it or on the plant or above the plant or in the field. It's good to see it when you drive by if it's above water application, but we can use these soil moisture probes that was in the first session. We can track the water. How many of you are using a soil probe this summer? Quite a few of you. Is it telling you good information?
We can't match ET right now.
Pardon me?
We can't match ET right now.
No, but that's where we are. And that's what we're gonna address that a little bit. And there's not really many center pivots that can match ET. You're gonna have to have 8 gallons per minute per acre to match ET. Where we make it is soil storage. And I'll go through that here a little bit. We don't have enough water anymore, mostly, to match ET. We're deficit irrigating. And we have for a long time. And when we get to the irrigation capacity here, we'll go through that. But this is a way to trace it. Any of you that are using the probes are in the red on your little bubble on the website?
Getting close.
Getting close. We're in the red in a couple of places, and I'll go through that in a little bit. We won't actually show our website to you unless you want to see it, but those of you have your own. Here's some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. We can't do anything about what causes water application losses. We can't do anything about wind speed, low relative humidity, or temperature. That's beyond our control. What we have to do is try to address that. Try to respond to what's happening today out there, what the crop's seeing. We can manage, as we just saw, seepage below the root zone, and we're seeing a lot of conversion today to close drop spacings on 30 inches, and that's part of what this is about. And if you're interested in that, the reasons I hear that we're going to 30-inch drop spacings is I don't want to flip the pad from a spray to a bubble, and I watered wheat up with this bubble, this shroud bubble, and I started to mention a while ago, Senator is outside today here with 2 examples of what they have developed for you to look at and see. Our sprinklers are not in a good position for to walk out there, and I'll go through that a little bit later. Like Steve said, I did a lot of work over the years with developing LEPA, and I'm convinced that in corn we can get 95% of the water to the crop. But we're going to have to be in the bubble mode, and we're going to have to manage it. We can manage evaporation loss by preventing mist losses, like we're going to go through some of that today, and we kind of talked about that already. This is Charles Lapse's picture. I worked a lot with Charles, Ray's uncle, in the past. This is some of the things that I learned a long time ago. Some of you remember, and maybe some of you did go from when you were row watering. Kevin, you may not ever row watered, but some of them did. Some of us did. We were able to speed up the row water about 1/3 to 25% by going to every other row irrigation. And we had a lot of discussion earlier about, well, I need to put this water over in the dry row on the next trip. That, to me, is no. You put it where the roots have gone to the water, established it and developed to where they are, you just keep putting it back where it is. And that's what we did with the first series of LEPA, low drop, low energy precision application, LEPA application, that is the quad head that was one of the first LEPA heads. And any of you used that head? It was one of the first opportunities we had to go to, it would chemigate, and it's a more expensive applicator, and reason that I've asked Senator to be here today to help us show you what those different optional pads are, like the LD and shroud that was in the previous picture. Another thing that we did is then we were trying to leave a space for rainfall, and we did that. And that is something else that we need to go through. Here's some things that's not quite all in there, but what we learned in the 80s, we can do a lot more with less water by managing the systems. And we plowed too much, and we didn't have much crop residue, and that's some of the things that came pretty evident over the years to me. Any comments on that? Y'all kick in here whenever you want to I'm missing you, and we'll see if we can correct it. But that's some of the things, this was probably in the early 80s, and I'm not sure. There's the crop residue, and what we're gonna go through, we all know now that it's essential. If we're gonna get by with 3 gallons per minute per acre, which we're not doing right now, but we've got quite a few people nozzled at that, and some of you may be or may not, we can't do it without it. And we can't do it probably with this spray method either. What revolutionized the center pivot industry? That right there. This is what allowed us to do what we're doing today. Paris Hightower is going to talk to you this afternoon. He's the regional manager for Lindsay. And these are the people that helped get us where we are today. By making telescoping pipe links, and Joel's here with Rinky. They made all these changes. They gave us 140, 160, 180, and 200-foot span links, and they gave us the outlet spacing. And why do we need 10-inch pipe? We don't need it now like we used to, because we don't have the water. Low pressure. That allows us to go low pressure. And the design, which we'll step into a little bit here later. But this is one of the things that we can put about, in my experience, we can put 650 to 700 to a 6 5/8 east main line now on a water model if that's what you want to do. Or it don't matter where the 6 5/8 is. We'll go through one example here a little bit that you'll see some of that happening as we go. But this is one of the things. The other thing, the reason I said what I did earlier, you adapted this. You got us here where we are, and when we look for someone to make this presentation, you put me here. Because I talk to people outside, and we led this industry for a good while in the center pivot conversion, the center pivot efficiency, and I think Joe and Ferris are part of that. And what they did, what you did, and the other thing on the other side of that is what? Who's the other player in this? The other player of the genetics of the seed companies. Those are the 3 people that made this go, the industry. Okay, what determines crop system irrigation capacity? Let's go through that a little bit. It's already been brought up. So that is available water in July. And we've looked at LEPA, LESA, MESA, subsurface, row water. So what determines the irrigation capacity? The nozzle package? Yeah, it's the nozzle package. Number of rows set, emitter gallons per hour or spacing. And here's what it is. Here's your seasonal irrigation capacity. And this is where we are and what's already been brought up there. If you've got 120 acre circle, nozzled at 480, you've got 1.5 inches a week. That's all you can do. At what irrigation efficiency? Application efficiency, 100. This does not cause, we'll get into what you lose a little bit later. But if you're nozzled at 480, and see, we can put on 1.5 inches a week, and we're using 3/10 of an inch a day, like somebody brought out there, we're not staying up with ET, so where are we? How long is it going to take us to use 1.5 inches at 100% application efficiency? 5 days? 5 days? 5 days. We got 2 other days. So what are you going to do with them? That's where the soil water's got to come from, or a blessing from above. That's where we're now at 4 GPM per acre. If you get to what he's talking about, if we're using 3/10 of an inch a day, well, it's going to take at least 5.5 GPM per acre at 100% application efficiency. Is that right? About that. These are in your book somewhere. For those of you in the back row that are stretching for the lower part here, I'm not sure where they are. Paul, where is Paul? Where are they in the book?
Page 6.
You found them, Ray?
Page 6.
Yeah, okay. Okay, they're in the book, for those of you that references. And look what I've got. We've got corn all at 3 GPM per acre, and if I stood up here 8 years ago and told you we're going to grow corn with 5 GPM per acre, you'd have told me to go home and stay there. But we've got people that done pretty good with 3 GPM per acre, putting on 1.1 inch a week with that kind of application efficiency. They're using LEPA. And they may spray a couple of times before. Okay, someone in the class asked this question in the first session. How do you know, over in the barn, how do you know how many inches you're applying? This is how you know. It's a simple formula. The GPM of your center pivot, of your drip zone, or whatever it is, times the hours that you run that zone or that acres. 450 gallons a minute is an acre, inch, an hour. It don't matter where it is, it ain't going to change. If you've got 900 GPM, Donnie, which you do on that T&L, you're pumping 2 gallons, 2 acre inches an hour. So where are you putting it? And there's an example down there like I used before. That is the formula that's going to hold true for you whatever you do. Someone in the class asked this question in the barn when Sean Carter was talking at the noon session. And there's your example. That baby's going to stay there and it ain't going away. The question is how much of it you're getting to the, how much of the water, how much of the 480 are you getting to the crop? And that's the question. This is what you're applying. That's what you're applying. So where is it going is another issue. Irrigation system capacity is the same. It don't matter what it is. It's 1.6. I use 500 there. It's irrigation capacity for any system at 100% efficiency is the same. The difference is where, like I said, where is the water going? And this become even less. This is one of the older slides that I had at 500 GPM. How many of you still have 500 GPM in a center pivot? A quarter mile?
More or less.
More than that. Yeah. Good. That's where you are. But see, this is what you lose. If you lose 25% of that with spray, you're losing one of those GPM. You're losing it. If you're losing 30%, we need to be down in the 6%, no more than the 12. And we can do that. Cotton is the worst. Why?
No canopies.
Yeah, no canopy. You got to get down in, way down in, get way down in that canopy if you're going to hide it. But corn seed is a blessing, especially if you're in a circle. This is a reason to go in a circle, and this is not handy sometimes. But if you, with the GPS units you guys use today, you can put that crop where you want it. And we need, one of the things that we learned that I didn't say about the previous every other row drop, we need to be on every row, one side of every row. And one of the reasons we've got, isn't that right, Ray?
I suppose it's not happening in my place.
It's not? Why?
20-inch corn.
Yeah. That's the reason one of the things that's happened, y'all hear him? 20-inch corn on 60-inch drops. You don't have anything on every row, and it's going to be a tough go. We went through that back in the 80s when there's some of these earlier systems. We got to be on one side of the crop plant, and that's one reason a lot of them have gone to the 30-inch spacing. And we're going to get into that, I hope. We got to, because this is the day. Okay, here's what we have at this. This is a picture I came up with. It's kind of crude, but we've got 4G. This is this center. We've got 30 acres, 38 acres, and the blue recently installed a subsurface drip. And they will discuss that tomorrow at 4 GPM per acre. Our tape is on 30-inch spacing. We paid $3,000 an acre for this system, the district did. And this is why I asked Steve Amerson that question a while ago. You can get the spacings. We have an option, as I say here in this, of 60-inch spacings. We can run one zone that's doubled up by another zone one at a time, and we get 60-inch spacings. And we're not doing that this year because we're trying to we're going to school. You never quit going to school. Look at me. On the left side, we got about 238 acres here, and the east sprinkler over here has the LDN UP3 bubbler with a shroud on it. No, I'm sorry, the LDN, and it's going to be exhibited out here. And the west sprinkler, the one y'all saw when we walked out to the probe, it's way around past the gym today. It was handy Monday, but you weren't here. So you can drive around there if you want to see it running, or we did get Senator here to show this. But we have the shroud on the west sprinkler that y'all saw. We have the LDN bubbler UP3 new nozzle on the east sprinkler, and we run them in the bubble mode, and that's where we are today. We run a 345 GPM project with the district, and I want to go through that a little bit with you. We work with both Ferris Hightower on FieldNet. FieldNet runs the drill. We use FieldNet controller on the drip irrigation, and I don't know if Ferris can talk about that tonight. This afternoon, he knows, I don't. And we use Pivot Track to guide us on to write the prescription and run the center pivot on the 345 project. The 345 project is just what it is: 3 gallons per minute, 4 gallons per minute, and 5 gallons per minute. We got 7 sprinklers over the area from Perryton to Sedan, New Mexico, and Curtis sitting back here, and I get to make that trip at least once a week, sometimes more often. But the way we do this, and the information we have, is the blue is the 4 GPM on Harold Graw's 2015 system. We run that through speed control to put on 1.49 inches per week in the blue. The green is the 3 GPM. We run that by speed control to put on 1.1 inches, which is 3 GPM per acre. We run the 5 in the dark blue there for 5 GPM by speed control. And I suppose that this is the second year of that project. And guess what else we're doing? We got it in drip too. We're going to get our own data about drip. We got the 345 on the drip I just talked to you about. We're going to put 1.1, 149, and 185 per week on the drip. That's the reason we have the drip. The district bought the drip. This is not going to be a hearsay. It's going to be what happened. And it's going to give you some good data about the comparison of the two. Any questions on that? We're moving pretty good here, I hope. But the way we do that, Pivot Track runs the systems. Our FieldNet will run Danny's system. We turn it over. Only thing I know, I get a text when the system goes from one sector, or the 5, the 3, or the 4. I know when it goes, changes systems, and that's by tracking, which Carlisle will talk to you about today. Okay, let's go a little. Any questions on anything we've covered? Anything that you want to know more about the applicators? I'm going to talk a little bit about center pivot design. Donnie, I know you don't really care about center pivot design, but we do. When you come to us, well, he left, didn't he? Some of the rest of you, but we have to know, the guys of us that are working in that, what you're doing and the big thing here we've already talked about the span leaks. We can tolerate 25 to 35 GPM difference on a quarter mile system at low pressure. See, one of the things that happens when you go to low pressure, if you drop from 40 pound PSI to 20 pound PSI on the operating system, what have you just done? What'd you do?
Dropped your application rate.
Yeah. You changed the system. How big is your window to manage with a 40 PSI system? You drop that down to 20, you just narrowed your window, and you drop it down some more, you narrowed it some more. But you have proved that you can do that. You're the one that got us here. You see what I'm talking about? If you drop 3 PSI on a 40 PSI system, what have you dropped? If you drop 3 PSI on a 15 PSI, that's not the same thing. And so why did you go from 40 PSI to 15? Pumping cost. What else? Mist. Application loss. Get more water to the crop that you're pumping, more water that you're pumping to the crop. So, you've proven that you can do that. We designed, one of the things that I'm going to go through with you a little bit. We designed from setting an end pressure in the end of the machine. We developed this nozzle package, and I've done a lot for some of you over the years, and I went to school. I learned what it takes, and Rinky and Lindsay and Valley and T&L, they have their nozzle packages as well as anybody else. We set the pressure on the end of the machine, and we'll go through that a little bit. It's a little bit different. And one of the things that we know is when you get a center pivot nozzle package, you can't take it over to the other field, can you, Terry? No. This is for this system. If you change it up and move it around, it ain't going to work. So if you call me, want me to run a nozzle package, or one of the dealers that you're dealing with, they need to know certain parts, certain information about running this pivot re-nozzle package for you correctly. Okay, one of the things that happens, we need to know the elevation differences, and why do we need that? From the pad. If we're pushing water up like this, where's the water got to go? You got to push it up there. It's not going to crawl up there. You got to push it up there. So your pivot operating pressure, when it's uphill 20 feet, is going to be higher at the pad, right? What if it goes down 20 feet? What's going to happen? It'll go down. So, do you want to operate uphill or downhill, or both? That's the reason we need to know that. And we can do that if we have the correct information on the plus and minus differences from the pad. We're not pushing it outside the field, we're pushing it from the pad up or the pad down. And let me see, that's okay, here's another thing we do. Why is it important to have your regulators low, or your applicator low? We use gravity. We can get about 4 PSI, and this little 2.31 feet of elevation for 1 PSI is your neighbor. You can go to bed with it. Not your neighbor, but this is the rule of thumb, and you'll see that. So we capitalize on that, and I'll set 3, 4, 5 pounds in the end of the machine, and then I'll get 3 or 4, 5 more coming off the gravity. And that depends on how long your drop hoses are. But that's something we capitalize on. What else does that do? That don't give you much flexibility, does it? That's the reason the guys that are trying to give you an auto package are kind of nosy sometimes. They want to know a little bit more than you may have available, and we'll go through that. But that's part of what we designed for, and everybody has to. What about pressure regulators? A guy called me one time, and he said, I need to replace my 6-pound regulator with 10. Why would he want to do that?
He must have a lot of slope in his field.
At what?
He must have a lot of slope in his field.
Yeah. But will a 6-pound hold slope? He wanted to pressure up his system with 10-pound regulator because he wasn't pressured up with 6. A regulator does not pressure up a machine, it controls pressure. Most of you know that. Pressure regulator is it regulates pressure. And it takes about 2 more pounds than the regulator rating to pressure it up properly with the inlet pressure. So if you're using 10s or 20s, let's say 10s instead of 60s, you just ask for 4 more pounds of operating pressure. It's required to pressure it up. Because you need about 23 on a 20-pound, about 12 on a 10-pound, and about 8 on a 6. So obviously, being where I've been over the years, I'm very prejudiced to 6. And you see where you can, if you drop water, and you got 10-pound regulators, it's going to happen faster. See that? You can pressure up a 6-pound regulator with 8 pounds, but you can't a 10. It ain't gonna happen. And when you can't pressure up your regulator, it's throttling. It's not working. How many of you went to the 10-6 packages that Senator put out when we were fumigating? Any of you? Good. We had to go to a 10-6 on the inside the span, what's called a 10-6 regulator package, to get the fumigation up on the package, up on the corn. We had to get 5 pounds, 5 feet up in the air, and so we had to do that. And there's not many of that much anymore. I guess no one in here, and I don't know if they are, but it's kind of history. But we had that to deal with over the years. Okay, a gauge of the last drop helps. Uphill, where does the gauge need to be? Downhill. At the pad or the first drop. And it would read, this is by the way, I'll just bring this out, this is the rinky system on the center. That would be the wet sprinkler with the pressure gauge low is kind of hidden and in the shroud mode. One of the reasons that some of the guys went to the shroud is we watered up wheat over here last year with the shroud and did pretty good with it. But that is one of the things that we get. And like the other slide said, typically we're at 17 pounds at the pad, and if you're on a system that's pretty level, or it could be uphill. It just depends, but that is the low pressure that we're working with. And one of the things that's happened to me is that if you're is the pointer working? Yeah. See, if you've got a main line up here somewhere, and you're down here, let's just say you're down here 4 feet. Is this pressure regulator, is this pressure gauge reading what's up on the main line? No. What's it reading? It's reading where it's put. So let's just say you're 4.5 feet from the main line, then this right here is gonna be about 2 pounds less than what's on the main line. This has come up. Yeah? Ray's questioned me. Go ahead.
You're saying that that would be 2 pounds less than up at the top of the main line?
Other way around, yeah, other way around, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Other way around. He's listening to me, that's good. I can take it. Yeah, he's listening.
Ain't nap time yet.
Okay, yeah. It's gonna be 2 pounds less on the main line. Because he's 4 feet below. And above the other, back to the, maybe I'll think of this other when we get down there. We'll get into some more of this other. Why don't we put the pressure regulator up on the main line? We ever do that? Yeah, we did. The point I showed you on the slide, when we get 4.5 pounds of pressure, free gravity pressure, is the reason we moved the pressure regulator down. I was working one time down in Hereford, and Mr. Coleman out here was still functioning quite well then, and we had converted a system of his, and we still had the pressure regulators up close to the gooseneck, and he called me and said, "You need to get up here." And I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "We ballooned that drop hose. It's about 6, 8, 9 inches in diameter, and when I got here, in the first 2 spans, it was, at least it ballooned out. And see, we ran so small amount of water through there that the heat is like today, that thing just swelled up, and it never did burst, thank goodness. Or I'd have been in some jam, and I probably wouldn't be here today. But that's what happened. So I called some of the people whose predecessors to equipment supply out here, and I said, "I need some higher pressure hose," which many of you know. And he said, "No, you need to move the regulator back up." And I said, "We're not going to do that. You find us some hose," and they did, and that's where you got the. You got a lot of options to hose today, and let's move on. Okay, here's something that kind of touches on what Steve was going about. Some of you are pumping 10,000 gallons a minute with 20 sprinklers, maybe. And this is what it really amounts to on the pressure, and like someone, Keith pointed out here a while ago, it's only money. You can save dollars and make a difference. Here's another rule of thumb that we've developed over the years, and I developed this with the pump testing that Amoson was talking about. He saw me come in a few times dirty, muddy, and greasy. But I'm glad we did. On a 450 to 500 foot pumping lift, total head, we use about 1 MCF per acre. That should be acre inch, not hour, I'm sorry. I got hour in there. Correct that in your slide. That's fuel per acre inch. And 70, 75 kilowatt hours per acre inch. I made a goof there. I'll fess up when I mess up. That's what my mom told me. When you mess up, fess up. I'll fess up, guys. That's 105 MCF per acre inch. It says at the top, but it's not per hour. Well, it'd be per hour if you're pumping 1 acre inch of 450 gallons a minute, it would work. The total head, we've gone through this, 6 to 650. We learned a lot of this from up in this area. And Steve, the 200 or 300 pumping levels are history up here, if they ever were. 6 to 650 take about 1.2 25 MCF, and I got a note yesterday from the people I'm following that West Texas gas is 525 an MCF. Any of y'all got that news yet? You may get it, and I got it the other day, 2 days ago. I still track fuel prices. Total dynamic head back to the 2.31, 550 foot pumping level. That's the pumping level, not the static level. Plus a 16 PSI discharge pressure, and that's at the well. That's where you measure that, is at the well. So when you've got a gauge at the well, then that's where you need it. It's not on top of the sprinkler. So we're kind of coming along, aren't we? I don't want to get y'all in jam so you miss lunch, because I want to eat with you. Any questions on that? That's just the rules of thumb that I developed over the years. It's going to hold pretty quick, pretty good. These average engine efficiencies on this would probably be 23 probably. Pump efficiency in the 60s. One of the things I did learn, I'll throw out there in all the tests that we did, you guys pumping over 500 feet, 450, 500 feet, over that and above, your pump efficiency needs to be 60%. You can pay for a pump repair. Ask that guy back there in that khaki shirt. Is that right?
Yep.
You can pay for it. Now let him tell you how I got him out of that jam. We worked on it. My ears are still ringing from that 454 running 2,500 RPM. On a 3 to 2, and he still was having trouble. That's some of the fun we had. Okay, let's move on. Nozzle package. This is not what you... Dang, that's Austin Segoda. Anybody know him? This is the package that we're doing here for the cost share thing. We did it. And you look over, this is how ours shows up, and this is the type of data that we need. From the, go into your, Donnie's going to call his pivot man and say, make me a package. But see, when the guy, if he can't find it or if he calls me, I've got to have this information. And you see in there, he's got some 10-inch in this machine. He's got some 10. That's ID. He's got some 8. He's got some 8, yeah, and some 6 3/8 in here, and he's got 900 gallons a minute, which is 2 acre inches an hour, and he's got 14 spans, and he's converting this system from close spacing to 30-inch spacing, except the first span. And here's our spacing drop between the first drop. There's the drop hose. And we learned over the years you can put about 13 gallons a minute in a 3/4 inch hose, and then you got to go to closer spacing. Here's the drop position, and from there, and there's his regulators. What if those were 10-pound regulators? Would that nozzle package be the same? No. Why? Is the nozzle going to be bigger or smaller? With 10-pound versus how much? Smaller, that's right. Because it's got more pressure on it, so it needs to be smaller to put out that water. We're going to move on. Here's the other side of what we need. And this, when you ask for a, when you get your printout back, look at this and see if this is yours. What if I sent you Joe Blow's? What if I sent Terry and Joe Donnie's package? I done messed up, didn't I? And I messed you up. I was, and Donnie's not going to know except that if he looks at it, just don't go out there and start nozzling. I did that one time. I had a half miler over here on Dale Coleman's, almost re-nozzled wet. And I looked down and I had the wrong package. Not fun. And it's getting late in the day. And I don't know, any of you know Mr. Coleman? Yeah. Was he a fun guy to work with?
No.
He knew him. He knew him. His patients were, anyway, he's a great guy. He built a lot of stuff, and he was one of my mentors. But anyway, look at this thing. See, it's an 1885-foot machine, and I've got a 6 psi design pressure in it, and I know that it's pressured up. There's my drop spacing in feet. All this. These are things you don't worry about, but we do. And uphill, 5 feet. And we went with the 5 feet. But what I do, and what most of the guys do, that's we need a plus, we'll run both. And we'll pressure it up until you're putting out the same amount of water uphill as you are downhill. But if he's going to do that, if your guy that's nozzling your machine going to do that, he has to know what it is. And you got GPS, you can get that. And we have a flag for ourselves. I don't know about the other guys that run these factories. We have a flag that has these little stars in it. It says, indicates the inlet pressure of a regulator may be too low for proper function. So what that tells me and tells you, if you watch that your regulator is not pressured up, and it'll flag that. And so if you see that in any of your machines, then that's what it is, and let's move on. Okay, one of the things I want to point out here is your regulator working. This is still in Donnie's machine. And for us, we're in 64s. If you're using a Nelson product, that's going to be 2 times that. It's going to be in 128. Any of you using Nelson? Okay, it's going to be in 128 instead of 164. But this is what the package says. But what I want to point out here, look right there. Is the regulator working? Divide that by 2.31 and you get somewhere around 14 pounds. The pressure is taking 14 pounds in the first, this is span 1. This is span 1, it's taking about 14 pounds out of there, and then we're pressured up because we're coming out of the regulator, the 6-pound regulator, 6 times 2.31 is 14.4. So we're pressured up. That tells us there that we're pressured up on all of the sheets. But the regulator, if you didn't have regulators on there, this pressure would be 20, well, it'd be about 15 pounds. I don't remember what the, 18 pounds, maybe 20. I'd have to look back to see. We're not going there unless somebody wants to. But that's why we do that. I want to show you something else. We've moved on down in Donnie Austin's machine to span 11. So with the 5 uphill, look how that pressure has dropped. We put out that water. Now instead of taking out 14 pounds, we're taking out like 6. But we're still operating. We've dropped off 100ths of a pound coming out of the regulator. And here's our difference. Let me see right here, the way this works, and I know many of you are not very interested in this, but just to show you how it works, just for anything, the way this works, you see that Q design right there? That's what it says, that each one of these drops, and this is a size 2 nozzle, and that's the reason we don't have a size 2. So these drops in this span, Donnie, are 5 feet apart. This is Austin's T&L. And that's the reason they're 5 feet apart, is we can't do anything about that. There's not a nozzle, or smaller than 4. So this stays 5 feet, and then we can go to different spaces, the closer spacing when we get to span 2. When you see Q design over here, that's a GPM that is calling for, see, we've got a donut that's 30 inches wide. What this package does, you've got a donut that's 30 inches wide. Ever how many drops? 1,400 of them or something like that. Ever how many drops is in there? That's what you got. Over here, over here is Q nozzle. Over here is Q nozzle. That's what the package says. This is how close we are to this over here. The package says that we need 0.2 gallons per minute here, and over here we got 0.22 because we don't have a 3 and do not want a 0.3 nozzle. It has to go to the second nozzle, and that's the way that works. And it works good. We've been through that. Here's the variation. You're not really concerned about this unless something goes wrong, but just bring it out today, especially at the bottom. This is where the variation in the design nozzle packages I did for Austin together for this class. Span 1, the highest and the lowest is 2.9 in drop 2, and the highest is drop 3. And this design is at 3.51 GPM. He's got 256 acres in with 900 gallons a minute. And the next thing on this is that NRCS requires a coefficient of uniformity of 94. For those of you going to cost share, they require your inspection. Some of you have already submitted this nozzle package has to go with your application. Somebody's nozzle package. And on this, I have for them, there's two types of coefficient of uniformity. That's how uniform the water is going out through the system. And the differences that vary in each span. See, there's 14 spans there, and we're close enough. Donnie, I don't think y'all going to worry about the difference between 3.68 and 3.51, are you? You got more worries than that one, by far. But this right here is a concern because you've got to show a 94% crop coefficient. For running the precipitation rate, we need speed. We need different speeds. We need the center drive, the wheel sire, and the wheel tracking. And the precipitation chart, this is what we come out with. This is what y'all use. This is what you're really interested in. What else are you interested in? This thing right here. This is your breakfast, your lunch, and your evening meal. This is what you live on. And just to show you kind of where we are with a 320 gallon a minute precipitation chart, we can put on an inch in 170 hours, and this is back to that formula that I gave you back earlier. This is that formula. It means on how we've got a 320 acre machine, 320 gallon a minute machine on 122 acres, and we can put out an inch a week, and no, it's whoever brought that up, it's not staying up. But we've got a good soil profile, and we hope we'll get some rain and go from there. Water application spacing. I'm going to say a little bit about that. Where are we on time, somebody?
About time for a break.
Almost?
For a break, yeah.
Ready?
Sure.
Wait just a minute.
15 minutes.
Is it time for the break?
Whenever, as soon as you get to a good stopping spot.
What time is it?
It's time for a break.
10:25.
Okay, let's take a break. Have a break. And
15.
while if you want to go visit with the guys, and we'll let them talk right after the break on their product, but they're right outside the door. Let's take a break.
15.